All right, guys, we've got everything opened up and laid out on the kitchen table. As you see it, nothing has been done to the aircraft. This is the level of completion that Extreme Flight has right out of the box. And it's incredible to see all the new improvements, all the things that Extreme Flight has done so that you don't have to. So as you see it here, it is truly possible to take this airplane from the box to the field in about an hour or so. That said, what we want to do with these videos is go through what we can do and the extra measures that we can take to ensure that we get the highest and best performance out of the aircraft, but also longevity. So taking that extra little bit of time to go over everything, that's what we're here today to show you, and let's jump right in. First impressions, a truly beautiful aircraft with the quality that we all expect from all the larger Extreme Flight aircraft. Just put into a smaller package. Everything from perfect covering. I've looked over the whole thing, there's barely a wrinkle anywhere, to the amazing fiberglass work. We've done an excellent job on the cowling. Scale, beautiful, and just the lines that we all love of the NG. Inside this beautiful cowl is the amazing T-Motor AM480 with a perfectly matched ESC, and truly the most amazing power system I could ever imagine for this aircraft on 6S. It's got twice as much power as you'll ever need, but man, it is fun. Pre-installed in the wings and tail, we have the Theta 921 servos. These are fast, precise, and excellent performance. Most of the geometry is already set up for us, and we'll go through the rest here shortly, but all the control rods, the ball links, everything is done for us, so extremely high levels of prefabrication there. Moving on to the accessories, we've got a beautiful carbon fiber landing gear. It's already put together for us. Axles are pre-installed. We're going to check all those through the build process, but these are completely ready to bolt onto the aircraft already. Beautiful fiberglass wheel pants, very lightweight, very nicely done. Have a nice carbon fiber matching tail wheel, easy to install, very light, done very well. Moving over to the hardware side, most of the hardware is already on the aircraft, so we just have a few extra pieces, a couple extra hinges. These are going to be for the side force generators right there. To match up with the AM480 motor, we have the T-Motor 13 6.5 prop. Does a great job, and of course the matching spinner. These things are beautifully done. Everything here, plus some wing bags for the aircraft. All right, now that inventory is complete, we're just going to take the covering iron and go over all the seams. The covering is, again, it's just beautiful on this aircraft, but for instance, all these little points, I'm just going to take the covering iron, put a little bit of pressure on it with the sock, and just go forward on each one of these. Never go backwards. If you do go backwards, you might risk grabbing the tip and peeling it up, but just a little bit right there, you can see that needs it as well. We're just going to go over every one of these seams and just give them a nice tack. Again, backwards on this point. This point, we're going to go forwards. All right. Gently all across here. Holding the hinge down, I'm going to put the point of the sock inside. Just make sure that we can tack down these edges nicely as well. So here we have one of the very few small bubbles on the covering. And instead of taking a heat gun, we're just going to go the safe route. Use the iron on this, and I'm just going to hold it over, if you can see that in the light. I'm going to hold it very close, and we're just going to let it slowly warm up. So I'm not putting any pressure on this. I'm just holding it just barely above the surface. The sock is just barely touching the covering. And we'll just be patient with it, and it will come right out here. All right, removing the iron, and look at that. Just about perfect. So now I'm just going to take the iron and give it a little bit of a tack, make sure that's still adhered to the wood, and there we are. All right, so again, the axles are pre-installed, but we are just going to add just a small drop of blue Loctite to the end of that. These nuts already have a washer that's essentially built into them, so I'm not worried about washers. Just holding it with a pair of needle nose pliers inside. If you have a low profile wrench, that works great as well, but this is what I had. And we'll get it nice and tight. Just a healthy snug. We have our main landing gear screws that are already installed, and we'll just take these out. Add a small amount of Loctite to each one. Give a drop on one, and then I just connect them together. And we're ready to install the landing gear. Hold it in place. I have to say it's so satisfying when blind nuts are already perfectly installed. No guesswork. And just a nice snug on both of these. With the landing gear on, we're going to install this small landing gear cover here with either goop or silicone, ensuring that it's in the right orientation. And nice little firm pressure. Moving on to step 3, it is time to pull this small cover off, and we're going to install the horizontal stabilizer. And before we fit this in for the final time, I'm just going to take a small red Sharpie and just run a line all the way across here. That way, if there is any gap, you really won't be able to see it. It's all going to disappear nicely. Installing the horizontal stabilizer is one of the few pieces of the build that you really can't go back on. Once it's glued, it's glued. So let's take a few extra minutes just to make sure that we get it absolutely perfect. Extreme Flight has already got it keyed perfectly for us, and so we'll slide it in. And I think one of the biggest things that people struggle with is getting it all the way forward. So we're going to smoothly push it all the way until it stops. And then we're going to take this cover piece and we're going to put it in there and just verify that we still have plenty of clearance, that it actually indeed did go all the way forward. So I'm still feeling just a little bit of rubbing. I was probably a little bit too gentle pushing on that. They end up quite tight here at the front. So it feels like it's bottoming out, but it's actually not bottoming out yet. So I'm going to just make sure that we're not damaging the hinges. Push there, and then I feel, yep, still moving, still moving, still moving, still moving, right there. All right, now I can feel that it's bottomed out. And again, we're going to take this little cover piece, stick it right back in there, and just verify we have lots of clearance. So if you see there, we got about 1/8 of an inch of clearance or better, almost 3/16. So that's looking great. We've lost pretty much all of our gap on both sides here. And the last thing we're going to do is put the wing tube in and then measure it against the wing tube. So this will ensure that everything is perfectly square. With the wing tube perfectly centered in the aircraft, we're just going to take a tape measure, go right from the end of the wing tube, not to the leading edge of the horizontal stabilizer. We're going to go right to the hinge line. So from above, looking straight down, we're looking at 26 and 11/16 on this side. I've made just the smallest adjustment, and it should be identical here. And 26 and 11/16 there as well. All right, now with everything perfectly square, we're going to take the cover block out, and it's time to glue in the horizontal stabilizer. So this will be just thin CA. I'm going to deflect the elevator all the way down, and just a quick side note, make sure that you have a paper towel and some acetone ready just in case you have a little bit of spillage. So I'm going to go all the way in here, if you can see the tip of that. Flip it over, we'll keep the cowling on the towel, and we'll do the exact opposite. Holding the elevator in full up deflection. Slide in here with a little more thin CA. We'll clean up with a paper towel, and she should be solid. Now that the horizontal stabilizer is glued in, we're just going to take some medium CA and just put a gentle bead on both sides of this. And slide it in all the way until it bottoms out. Just make sure that this line is perfectly straight and any cleanup that's necessary. All right, next we're going to install the rudder. As you can see, the CA hinges have already been installed in the rudder side. However, we're going to have to cut the holes in the covering for each one of these hinges. So what we're going to do, we're going to grab a little bit of extra tape, and this will just help us mark where we're going to have to cut those holes. I'm going to hold the rudder up, and we'll just put a piece of tape right there. Right there. All right, 3 pieces of tape we're just going to go on center, and I'll take an X-Acto knife and cut those out. All right, there is a hinge slot that's already cut in here. We just needed to open it up on the covering side. And up here, we're going through 2 layers of covering, so make sure that you have a new blade for this. And again, already has a slot. We just need to cut the covering away. Make sure you get it right in the center, through the covering, and you can feel it's already cut. There's a nice little slot there. Just run it down, open up the covering, and let's dry fit it. Start with the bottom and gently insert the hinges one at a time. There, and at the top. Okay, bring it all the way down till we have almost no hinge gap, and just line the stripes up towards the top. The other thing we want to consider here is the tail wheel is going to be coming out of this little slot. We want to make sure that the rudder does not protrude below the fuselage. If it does, then we'll have to shim the tail wheel slightly. We're not too worried about this gap up here. Having a healthy 16th is just fine up there. You're going to see the same thing on the elevator. We just want to match up the lines and prepare it for gluing. I'm going to pull the 2 screws out that mount the tail wheel. And what that'll do for us is it'll allow me to dry fit the tail wheel before we hinge the rudder. Again, one of the 2 pieces that we actually glue on the airplane, we just want to make sure that it's exactly where we want it so we don't have to adjust anything later. We'll pull this out as well, dry fit the tail wheel. Remove the tiller screw really quick. And as we slide the tail wheel in, I've made this nice little scale fairing here, and we just want to make sure that this is not riding on the rudder, which it is just slightly right now. So I'm going to bring the rudder up just a touch. Up there. And let's try that again. The rudder is fully positioned with the tail wheel bracket touching. We can see that we have just enough clearance right there. So we're going to pull this out. And again, nice amount of clearance up here. The rudder is fully engaged. All the hinges are fully seated. And let's glue it. I'm holding the rudder full deflection, taking our thin CA and just going right here into each hinge with, there's 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drops. Moving up the line. One, 2, 3. All right, take the rudder, full deflection, nice and free, no issues. I'm gonna flip it over and just give just a single drop to each one of them on the other side. Okay, got a paper towel, it's just a little bit of acetone, and I'm just going to clean each one just to make sure we don't have any residual CA. As that CA is curing, just work that rudder back and forth nicely. And it feels great. We're ready to put the tail wheel in. And upon sliding this in for the first time, just notice that we're gonna have to relieve this just a little bit back here. So We're just the bottom portion right here is just barely hitting that. So I'm just going to take an X-Acto knife and relieve that slightly. And that should be it. We'll test fit it once more, and that's perfect. Before putting the tail wheel in for the final time, I'm just going to take a little bit of thin CA and harden up these holes here. Just dab a thin CA in the tiller screw hole as well, and we're ready to put her in. So we put the first one in just loosely, and then once the second one's in, we'll tighten them both. Just a good, healthy snug. Last screw here will be for the tiller. We've already got some CA down in that hole. I'm going to start it by hand and kind of work your way around the tail wheel. For the tiller, you don't want this to be fully tight. You want to have just a little bit of play there, just so that it can move back and forth in that slot. So just verifying there's no binding, perfectly easy to move, and our tail wheel's done. Now that the tail wheel's on and easy to work with, we're going to just verify that all these have Loctite. This one did not from the factory. Some of them do, but just a quick dab of blue Loctite. And nice and snug. Same thing with the lower two, or in this case the upper two. In this case the top one is Loctited from the factory, and this one's not as critical, but that one also appears to be as well. All right, our tail wheel's finished. Although the power system comes beautifully pre-installed, we're gonna pull the cowling really quick next and just go over all the mounting hardware, ensuring everything is Loctited, and then also ensure that the ESC and motor wires are properly shielded and protected. So let's pull the cowling and just give it a quick check under the hood. All right, looking underneath here, Extreme Flight has started adding fuel tubing to a couple of these places to prevent chafing. There's just one place that I found that will possibly chafe right here, and so I'm gonna zip off these two zip ties and just add a little bit of Tygon fuel tubing right there, and then also right here underneath the ESC wires. This is probably not necessary, but that's just an added point of security. So let's take these off really quick. Take this, just open it up, and slide it right on there. I'm going to take the second one, and for this one, because it's going to be a little bit hard underneath those, I'm going to open it up again and just put a little bit of CA right in the middle. I know there are better adhesives for this, but CA is what I've got right now. So I'm just gonna take this, slide it right underneath here, if you can see with the camera. Slide it underneath both of these ESC wires. And then I'll just put a little dab on each side. Okay. All right, with those areas protected, we'll go ahead and zip tie these wires back in place, just like they came from the factory. Leave them both loose initially. And just kind of move them around until they feel like they're exactly where they want to settle naturally. And tighten down. All right, we're gonna pull the motor off just for a couple minutes here. Just gonna pull the 4 machine screws, nuts on the back, and then we'll be able to just verify that everything is Loctited perfectly tight with the motor mounting hardware on the back of the X mount. Okay, last one here. I'll put some forward pressure on that machine screw so that the motor doesn't fall out with it. And once those are off the back, and grab the motor. And without pulling the ESC wires, I just want to check the tightness of those 4 bolts, make sure that they have some Loctite on them. 2mm Allen head on here, and upon initial inspection, these must have Loctite. They're all very solid, so I'm not going to pull them out and redo that. I'm just going to check each one of them, make sure that there's nothing left. Rock solid on all 4. And now that we have that peace of mind, let's just put her back on. All these on the back of the mounting hardware are lock nuts, so they have the nylock insert. However, just because I like to not worry about this at any point in the aircraft's life, and hopefully be flying this airplane for a long time, I'm just going to put a tiny drop of blue thread locker in there, just for a belt and suspenders. So hemostats are obviously not going to cut it for tightening these things all the way down. However, they are the easiest way that I found to get all these started. So you can hold them down, get them all tight. I put Loctite on each one of these and snug them up, and then I'll put something more substantial on each one of these. Guys, I'm sure that Ben Fisher has the perfect tool for this, and you can check out all of his videos for his recommendations. Right now though, a pair of needle nose pliers and just a good snug on each one of these is all you need. It's easier to flip it over to the last 2. Last thing I want to check underneath is the 2 collet set screws here. So I'm just going to insert the Allen wrench, try to back it out. It's not going to back out. She's solid. And so just verifying that both of these are in there and tight. That's really everything we need to do under the hood. All right, so we just spent a few minutes underneath the cowling here, and that'll really give us a lot of peace of mind that nothing's going to come loose. So Extreme Flight did a great job putting everything together. We just want to verify that everything's Loctited and really tightened down well. So let's put the cowling back on. Anytime we put the cowling back on, just make sure you have the canopy there, and that will ensure that everything lines up correctly. And just 4 screws. Here we go. So with any cowling, I like to just start all the screws, get them all about 80% of the way in, but keep everything loose. That way you can move the cowling around, verify that everything's lined up perfectly, and then tighten them all one by one. I remember fitting cowlings was one of my least favorite parts of building an airplane a long time ago, and now all the guesswork is really taken out of it. So before I tighten down the cowling, I'm going to take the spinner apart, just stick the back plate on there. Once the back plate is on, then we can just line it up perfectly and tighten down the 4 screws. Inside of your spinner, you'll find a little bag. This little bag has 2 small bushings, and so we just need to figure out which we need for the AM480. So it's gonna be the thicker of the 2 bushings, and we'll stick this right in the center of the spinner back plate, just like that. Slide it on. And then before I put the propeller or anything on, I'm just looking for just a nice spinner gap here, and get all this perfectly centered up so that all these are flush. So I'm happy with it as it sits right there, and let's tighten it down. Again, all the screws are almost all the way in, and let's give a nice little snug on each one. I'm holding the spinner and the cowling with my left hand so that nothing moves, and snugging them down with my right. Okay, before we hook up the tail surface linkages, I just want to take an Allen wrench, verify that both the servo screw and the spline locking screw are both tight and Loctited. So I actually just put it on there already. Both of them are extremely tight. They're not about to back off, and I'm confident that they have Loctite. Just verify that everything is tight. And checking the rudder side. So first I'm going backwards just to feel if it can possibly come out. Nope. And that's solid. And the spline lock, that's also solid. So again, just an extra moment just to verify that both of those are not going anywhere. And let's go ahead and hook up the surface linkages. Just want to verify that these are also solid. And there is nothing left on that one. So let's check this one as well. Again, guys, the factory does a great job of putting all these together. It's just our responsibility to verify that nothing was left. All right, starting on the rudder side, doesn't matter which one you hook up first. All right, next thing I want to do is just look at the geometry. So I'm holding the rudder perfectly straight here, if you can see. Our push rod is just a little bit too long right now, and so I'm going to tighten this down and shorten that up a little bit before we connect it. I know that there's plenty of thread protrusion on both sides, and so if you just do it by hand, whichever side is looser is obviously going to tighten up first. So I'm not worried about that. If I was putting it on, obviously I'd make sure that we have enough thread penetration on both sides, but that was good from the factory. So just tightening it up here. Okay, now that we're almost there, I'm just going to take the pliers. If you have a wrench this size, great. I don't right now. And the biggest thing, you just want to make sure that these things are perfectly 90 degrees to each other. So if you look at it from the top down, you want to make sure that this one is 90 degrees to the one connected to the servo. Okay, looking top down, we're very close to being parallel there. The rudder's perfectly centered, and let's connect it. All right, one washer underneath just to protect the G10 control horn. We'll slide that on. One more washer. Tiniest dab of blue Loctite. Thread that on. Snug it up. Again, not over tightening it, but just a nice, healthy snug there. Okay, our geometry looks good. We've got just enough thread protrusion there, and I'm happy with that. Moving on to the elevator. I'll take this out first. Okay, just like we did for the rudder, I want to look at the geometry before I connect this. So I'm holding the elevator in a neutral position. I've got the arm at 90 degrees. And then I'll take this and just kind of look through that little ball link, and if it's where you want it, I'll go ahead and connect it. All right, we'll insert this, and then one washer, again, just to protect that G10 control horn. Slide it through. This one's easier because nothing's vertical. Gravity isn't working against us. Slide one more washer on. Again, the smallest dab of blue Loctite. The ball end of the Allen wrench makes it easy to thread on quickly. I'm just going to go until it snugs. Once it snugs, I want to use the solid end of the Allen key. Verify that we don't strip anything. And just a nice, healthy snug there. Okay, both the rudder and the elevators are connected now. That was step 10 in your assembly manual. And really the tail section is done at this point. Moving on to the radio installation, all the wires have been routed, leaving very little for us to do here. One thing that's going to be a little bit different though, I have an old school AR6210 receiver. Now this is a vertical pin receiver, And with the wire length here, they're perfect for a horizontal pin receiver, which most folks are running nowadays, but there's not really enough wire length to put it in a vertical pin receiver. So I'm just gonna move this grommet here, give myself just a little bit of extra room there. The other thing I'm gonna do differently is the airplane comes with two 3-inch extensions for the ailerons. Now those would normally just give you a nice connection point right here. However, because I don't plan to take the wings off of this aircraft on a regular basis, I'm going to eliminate that extension and just plug those straight into the receiver. So we'll move a couple of these wires around, but again, for a horizontal pin receiver, it's perfectly set up, perfectly lengthed. And here we have a nice clean result. We just moved that grommet forward, moved the wires just slightly forward from this point to that forward hole. Vertical pin receiver works perfectly there. The lengths are excellent, and just a nice clean setup. Got the little satellite down there at the bottom, just Velcroed in, and once we plug the wings in, the aileron servo leads will be plenty long to reach that receiver right there. And should work out perfect, nice and clean, nice and simple. Before installing the wings for the first time, just as we did with the tail surfaces, I'm just gonna put an Allen key on each one of these and just verify that everyone is nice and snug. If any of these feel loose at all, I would just take the screw out and just put a tiny bit of thin CA in that spot and harden it up. All these feel great. And then last but not least, I'm going to pull the servo screw, the spline set screw, and each one of these, and just verify that everything is nicely Loctited and all perfectly tight. And now our favorite part of putting an airplane together, installing the wings for the first time. The cool thing is, Extreme Flight's already done this. We're not, there's no guesswork here, everything's gonna fit just beautifully. I have not modified any of these pieces. Slide the wing tube on, carefully insert our aileron lead, and all the way forward. Just keep an eye on your anti-rotation pins, and a perfect fit. I can't say enough about the quick release system. It makes field assembly and just overall assembly so much easier. And in addition to the convenience, they really are strong. I've hand launched these things many times, just holding the wingtip, holding the entire weight of the airplane by one wing, and just not a second thought. So wonderful design. Sticking it together for the first time here. Look at how well they fit. They haven't even been locked in. Just excellent fit and finish, wing to fuselage. And then of course the ever so satisfying quick release snap. 1, 2. Perfectly snapped. I haven't adjusted anything. And from the factory, she's straight and true. Just plug the aileron servos in, and as we talked about earlier, unless you're going to be pulling the wings off on a regular basis, just getting rid of that 3-inch servo lead just makes everything even that much cleaner, saves a couple grams and one more failure point. So we need to glue these small plastic ring washers onto the SFGs, and that's going to protect them and just create a better surface for the thumb screws as we install them on the aircraft. I like to personally cut them down just so we don't have the ring around it. This is all that's going to be contacting the thumb screw. So completely your choice, whether you put the whole thing on. I like to just zip it off and keep it low profile. So I'm just gonna put these on with a little bit of medium CA, because that's what I have here. At this point, we're ready to bind the airplane. With so many different transmitters and receivers, I'm not going to go too deeply into this. Just a standard binding process. The biggest thing is just make sure that we do this with no propeller attached. It's the easiest way to have an accident on the workbench. So got our bind plug in, and let's plug her in for the first time. All right, she's alive, holding the bind button. Once the airplane is bound, I'm going to first do the necessary reversing, and then I'll use a sub trim just to get everything perfectly straight at the trailing edges. Once I do that, we'll be ready to adjust travel. Okay, so using our level app on the iPhone, it just happens to match the NG color-wise, so that's kind of cool. So I'm going to put it on here. If it's not at 0, just tap it, and it'll zero out wherever you leave it. So I have the elevator highlighted in the radio. Smoothly bring it all the way down and showing about 38 degrees of throw right now. So I'm gonna hold the stick down. It's kind of fun to do it with one hand here. And then I'm going to increase that travel down to 55 degrees, right on the dot. Okay, we're back at 0 and lifting up the phone so we're not pushing the servo. And 49, 50, and then we'll increase this so we're getting right at 55 degrees. Okay, so that's how we set up our endpoints initially, and then your dual rates will be as you like them. And for the ailerons, we're looking for 36 degrees up and 35 degrees down. And we'll increase that throw to 35 degrees. And going up, they're recommending 36 degrees. And again, these guys have flown these airplanes more than most of us ever will. And so I highly recommend starting with their recommended starting points and then adjusting to your preferences from there. All right, 36 degrees up. All right, that's our high rate aileron. We'll repeat it on the other side. Now that our endpoints are set up perfectly for the high rates, this is the time where we would go and set up our low rates. Dial in your expos, and then we're going to calibrate the ESC. All right, no propeller, throttle stick all the way forward, and we're going to plug it in and wait for those high tones first. Now if those are complete, bring the throttle stick all the way back. And there you have it. And she's ready to go. Last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to rebind it with everything set just so that my fail-safe, in case anything happens, is just going to be all the controls perfectly neutralized. So bind plug's in there, plug her in. Okay, and that's our new default. If anything happens, if we lose signal, then the aircraft is going to go to idle off, and everything will be perfectly neutral. Much safer that way. We'll pull the bind plug out, and we are getting so close, guys. Installing the propeller is nice and simple. We're going to pull both of the prop nuts off, as well as the washer. So the only thing we need to think about here, once we have our propeller on, is lining it up so that we tighten it in such a way that the spinner screws will line up perfectly with the back plate. So we'll add the washer, and I'm just going to put the first nut on at this point. I'm just going to hand tighten it, okay? Just snug it down so we can still move the propeller. And then make sure that these holes are going to line up perfectly with the back plate of the spinner with the propeller nicely centered. So again, we can still move it around, moving it a little bit there, making sure that those are going to line up. And still need to move it a little bit. All right, looking through those holes, the propeller is centered in the spinner cutout, and both of the holes are going to line up. So we are good to tighten it down. I'm going to call that good and tight. And then we'll take this collet as well, and this will kind of act as a jam nut. So we've got that on there, and then I'll use a 2mm Allen key, just because that's what I have here. I'll stick it through and tighten it down nicely there. All right, spinner's ready to go on. 2.5mm driver, and I'm going to stick this all the way through first, if you can see that in the camera. And then it's very easy to line that up. And I'm just going to thread it about 3/4 of the way. We'll grab the other one, and you want to just be really careful not to tighten these down until you know that the spinner cone is completely seated in the back plate. The nearly quick release system on the SFGs is great, so all we're going to do is verify the thumb screws are about 1/4 inch out, and slide the SFG on, and then put it back. I'm going to hold it on the leading edge and then just tighten these down. These spacers here are included for the SFGs. They come on the airplane already. However, this particular one, there was just enough of a gap between the SFG and the hinge that I just elected to pull this out completely and save just a couple grams on the wingtip. As we are so close, just wrapping it up here, and kind of a final step. We've got a beautiful decal sheet from Extreme Flight, good quality, pre-cut, and lots of options here to make this aircraft your own. She's beautiful without anything, but lots of fun here as well. Okay, once you have decided which stickers you want and what kind of a layout you're going to go with, the easiest way to apply them nicely is just Windex or some other kind of application fluid. So I've already got the tape put in place just so I don't have to guess where these things are going to go. Done the measuring ahead of time, and we'll just carefully peel back the backing. Sticker is ready to go, and I'm going to just shoot a generous amount of Windex over there. And right about there. Trying to make sure that we have some Windex under the whole thing so we can move it around a little bit. There we go. Okay, once you have it exactly where you like it, we can take a credit card, or I often just take a microfiber cloth, and I'm just going to go from the inside out and just gently massage any bubbles out, and we're also pushing all that Windex or application fluid out to the edges. Nice gentle wipe, and we can peel back our alignment tape. That's pretty. All right, after giving the decals just a few minutes, I'm just gonna take a credit card and see if there's anything else that we can get out of here. And you can see just a little bit on the edges coming out. Squeegee it all out, top and bottom. Just another quick tip as we were finishing things up here. I'm sure all of you have seen canopies that are chafed up right at the leading edge where it goes underneath the cowling. Just take a small piece of sandpaper and I'm just going to go underneath the cowling and just smooth this out a little bit. Just cut down any excess burrs there, make it a little smoother so that mating surface is nice, and just keep your canopy looking nicer even longer. All right guys, we're just about done here. Last thing to do is figure out a good starting point for the center of gravity. And you can see right here, the former right in front of the receiver has CG, or center of gravity, right there. So I've got the battery basically just right up against the forward former, back of the cowl. And if I pick it up right here, she balances pretty much perfectly. So that's a great starting point. We'll take it out to the field. We'll give her a test flight and adjust accordingly. And now the moment we've all been waiting for. The beautiful NG is ready to fly. And she is beautiful. So excited about this one.